Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play by play commentator Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm rejoined by a concert and event producer who lists their favourite movie as Pulp Fiction and favourite TV show as Breaking Bad. Welcome back to the show, Alex Bua.
Howdy, thanks for having me back. Excited to jump in on the world of Penguin.
My pleasure. Did well last time, so we'll continue it. And weirdly, I'm slowly just morphing into all of my co-hosts. I totally
It
forgot
works.
that
It
you have
works.
a mustache as well.
It's all good.
So yeah, this week, like you mentioned, we're slinking back into the darkness of Gotham City to discuss the Batman HBO spin-off series, The Penguin, which follows directly on after the events of Matt Reeves, the Batman. In this one, we follow Oz Cobb, aka the Penguin, after he makes a play to seize the reins of power in the crime world of Gotham City after the sort of explosions at the seawalls. Oz notices that there is a potential power vacuum and that he can just slide on in there and take control following Carmine Falcone's murder. Uh, Before we get into that, what was your history with that Matt Reeves Batman, and then overall top level thoughts on the Penguin series?
Batman as a whole, I'm a huge fan. I feel like Batman was definitely one of like the original superheroes that I idolized. I've definitely dressed up as Batman many a time for Halloween. So that helps. And like all the interpretations of Batman, I enjoy, but I really did enjoy Matt's like kind of like take at it. I really appreciate and like the detectiveness and
Mhm.
the darkness of what the Pattinson movie was. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it was an appropriate time to kind of like not really kick the tires, but a little bit like kind of reinvent what the Batman like saga is. So I think with that first film, knowing everything that was, this Penguin series was something that like I was definitely not going to miss out on. And then seeing Colin's performance as the Penguin in the movie, I was like, I get more of that in a series. Like, sign me up. So yeah, it was definitely something that, like you said, like knowing going into this one, it was a direct like almost minutes after the film ends, here we are right in this Penguin universe that we get dropped into. That's really really exciting and enjoyable. I don't like it sometimes when series or spin-offs or even between a season they have a gap and there's no like explanation about what's going on other than maybe just a small little blurb of a character saying and 3 months later this happened. It's like
Yep.
it's really good to pick up the action right where we left off. So yeah, this one started with a bang, like actually started with a bang very very quickly. So yeah, to come out of the movie and then go right into this Penguin series was really exciting.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to 2026 when it's kind of going into the Batman 2. It's going to be a perfect excuse to rewatch the Batman, the Penguin in the lead up for the Batman 2.
Absolutely.
And much like you, I definitely dressed up as Batman a lot as a kid. I remember I made my mum take me to the shops dressed as Batman.
There you go. There you go. I've definitely been paraded around as a child in the Batman costume. So yeah.
Um, so what did you think? Obviously, yeah, Batman movie took it into the more. It lent into Batman is the world's greatest detective. It went down that road. What did you think of this story? Kind of, again, leading into that grounded reality style storytelling of this is just like a classic mafia crime story. The kingpin gets taken out. Now, what happens? Who steps up to fill that void?
Yeah, I mean, in itself, like if you eliminate the keywords in Batman and Penguin and you eliminate like all the allure of the superhero like world and you just look at it as what it is, like it is an amazing story. It's a very human story. Yeah, there's drama behind it. But yeah, it's just a real story. The series itself could have nothing to do with Batman and it stands out as like a really enjoyable watch. So just kind of the human element. Yeah, it's dark, but it also has the same tendencies like in Breaking Bad, where you don't know, is this guy good? Is this guy bad? The anti-hero is kind of the easiest way to label it. But yeah, everything about the unknown of like, you might be a fan of Colin Farrell, but you've never seen this kind of dark side of him. I know we're going to get into what just happened in the finale at some point, but like
Mhm.
from the beginning, you don't know if like at the end of this series, they're like, it's going to turn out that like Penguin's not that bad of a guy. And you don't know which characters to root for the entire time. And then like things change very quickly. From the first scene, like I said, it starts with literally a murder. And you don't know, you never expect that to happen because there's a point in that scene where you're like, okay, this is who the Penguin's going to team up with. Like he's going to get the
Mhm.
most out of this guy, but actually, no, he's just going to eliminate this guy. So yeah, I loved the unknown of like every scene can change what's going to happen in this series, and they very much did that all the way through until the very end.
Yeah, it keeps you guessing throughout, and like you mentioned, that is always the concern when they do these spin-offs of the villain of a story. Of, oh no, are they going to make me like really like this guy and not want him to get comeuppance at the end? But holy dooly, do they lean into the no, screw it. Penguin is cold-hearted, remorseless. He will kill
Yeah,
anyone and everyone if it means getting a little bit more power and a little bit more money for himself.
yeah, yeah. And then again, like again, not to delve too much into the end just yet, but like even how it ends, like I feel like I know what he wants out of it all, but I still am a little bit confused. Like the relationship with his mother is extremely complex, and I still feel like that still has to be unpacked. So like I'm glad we got kind of into its root cause, but at the same time, it's still there's so many layers yet.
Yeah, there's some serious sort of Oedipus complex going on there between Oz and his mother. A little bit creepy
Yeah.
and a little bit weird at times.
Yes, definitely.
Uh, and I also love that, yes, although this is a grounded story and almost doesn't exist with Batman, like he's, spoiler, non-existent in this movie except in this series except for one little like teaser element in that final shot of the series. But other than that, there is no Batman. I saw a lot of people complain about that, but I don't have a complaint with that. I think it makes total sense because if you look at the elements and the story beats that happen throughout this series, there is really only one point in this series that would kind of grab Batman's attention, and that is the giant car bomb explosion in the
Yeah.
second last episode. Everything else, it's happening in the crime family, in the crime world. Why would Batman get involved in that? He's out there to protect the innocent and sort of bring justice to things. These people don't deserve justice. These people are all doing horrible things. Let them kill each other. That's fine.
Exactly, exactly. And again, I'd have to do my research, and maybe you might know, but like from start of episode 1 to end of episode 8, like how much time actually elapsed? Because it doesn't seem like more than it honestly could be maybe like 2 weeks, like 14 days.
Yep.
Like it doesn't there isn't a long amount of time. So like yes, I understand everyone's upset, but like Batman's doing other things, and in a process of 2 weeks, unless there's something like absolutely catastrophic going on for the good people of Gotham, he's focused on that and not, Sophia just using gas to eliminate all of the crime family. Like that's he doesn't care about that. He's actually happy that that's happened.
Mhm. And especially when you think about it, this is on that first episode that we see where this is set in relation to what happened in that movie. There's some pretty big shit happening in Gotham that kind of still needs to be rectified and resolved. Like the Riddler whole arc, yes, they caught the guy, but they don't know like what was the motivation behind this. What is all this? What was the plan with blowing up the seawalls? So there is a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
more that Batman needs to focus on before he can come and deal with the crime families and
absolutely,
fighting each other again.
100%, 100%.
Um, but yeah, because it is grounded, I also did like that they. This is still very much a comic interpretation. Like the Penguin. he leans into those classic comic book character tropes of he has that strong association with purple, or although he'll tell you it's plum, not purple, with his
Mhm.
suit, his car, and then later in the finale we get the classic penguin in a tuxedo with top hat. I thought that was an awesome little like nod at the end.
Yes. Especially, yeah, that was very much like it was fulfilling for a comic book like kid to finally see Penguin in the tux with the tail and holding the hat. Like I wanted him to have that hat on for a little bit. I don't think he actually put it on. I know he was holding it, but yeah, I wanted there to be this like even like a cutaway or something with him in the hat. So yeah, that kind of like gave everybody as a comic book reader everything they wanted. Purple was a great color. He wears it well. But yeah, the even like the waddling and like the like the how he like carries his words and carries himself is so like spot on and what I would imagine as a penguin. Like other than Colin, my favorite penguin has to be Danny DeVito.
Mhm.
So like I'm happy that there was a lot of work collaboration and getting that character right. I want to say that I feel like Colin Farrell spent time with Danny DeVito, like an extended period of time of like working out what worked, what didn't, what he could do differently. So yeah, it definitely comes out on screen.
Yeah, like we see him with that. Yeah, I don't think we see him with the top hat on, but we see him take it off and hang it
Yeah,
on the hat rack. And did you notice there's an umbrella hanging on that hat rack as well? I was like, oh my God, that's
yeah,
like
I know.
perfect little nods to what I wanted from that scene. And like, yeah, even I guess the big talking point with Colin and the portrayal of Penguin, all the makeup and like the body shape of him, like it's so awesome. And Colin's performance for
Yes.
somebody that is totally unrecognizable, you do not realize that that is Colin Farrell unless you look really, really hard. Wow, such a good performance.
Yeah, in the finale when he's basically being interrogated and he's got the towel in his mouth and then finally like they rip that out. That entire scene, it like the entire series you forget that Colin's behind all of that. But yeah, like he's completely when he's driven and he's angry and he's like trying to get everything out of it. It's so like you totally forget that Colin Farrell's behind all that stuff, and you just continue to think that like this Penguin guy is a real guy. Like
Mhm.
it's amazing how the makeup really, really has like stolen that Colin Farrell exists behind it all.
And what did you think of like the name change from Oswald Cobblepot to just Oswald Cobb? Because I did read that they did that because they wanted it to be sound more grounded, more real. Like Cobb is definitely a surname you would hear. Cobblepot, maybe not so much.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't think that detail would sway me either way, but I guess I understand it now knowing it. Um, yeah, I'm interested if they've changed any other names because, like, obviously Selena Kyle's the same, the Falcones are the same. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to think if they would change any other names because they're either too long or too short or too like comic book esque. But yeah, I mean the subtleness of it, I understand, and the attention to detail, I appreciate.
Yep. And then the other person that portrays Oz, Ryder Allen as the young Oz, like the kid, he's also brilliant as well in the how we ended up getting to Colin Farrell's Penguin. The steps that get us there, they're also very well done, very intense.
Absolutely. The introduction of him as a young kid, you can see it's a child. Like it is definitely a kid. Everything he's doing is what a kid would do. And then as we slowly kind of progress with the young version of Penguin, the last scene we get of the young version of Penguin, it's an adult. It's an adult. It's a kid speaking like an adult, talking to his mother like an adult, saying things that you'd never expect a kid to be saying and like really meaning it and giving it a lot of emotion. So yeah, like that actor did a fantastic job of like showing like how quickly the Penguin had to mature based on everything that he was up against.
And everything that he did as well. Like I think that's the real turning point to him needing to mature when he realizes what he did to his own brothers.
Exactly. And like even in the last scene for a second I was like maybe this entire thing is like spinning it so that the mother has actually gone so crazy that she's put in her mind what happened that night and like we're going to get actually what happened. Like I thought at some point we're gonna find out that like maybe the mom killed the kids and just blaming Oswald for it. So that was like really putting me on the edge of the seat. I was like, maybe there's something that we don't know yet, and like actually the mother's like insane the entire time. But to know that actually what we saw on the screen is actually what happened, and to see a kid just like get past it and like try to put all of that, I don't know if it's anger or depression and all that emotion, and just literally put it aside and focus on mom and like have that be the feature. Yeah, very very strong and very very hard to get across on the screen, but the kid killed it. He absolutely nailed it.
And again, like that, I think, yeah, if they'd gone that route of, oh, the mum did it, we would have risked veering into that sympathetic anti-hero character. But the way they've done that, and then obviously a spoiler with the final murder that we see Oz commit, they 100% cement that this is the bad guy. And then when we finally do get that Batman versus Penguin encounter, that payoff is going to be so well earned and so cathartic for everybody that has watched both films and the series.
Absolutely, and you nailed it. I mean, that scene, if that scene ends the opposite way, we think that he's actually a good guy, and like you want to love the Penguin, but then you are immediately thrown in the other direction. Like, no, 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 like stop, stop, stop choking him. Like, oh my God, like he's gonna stop at some point. Like, oh,
Mm.
and it just continues to go through it, and it's like last night when I was watching it with Beck, we could not believe it. Like, I was like, no, he's gonna stop. Like, and how long they made it, and like choking someone is already a vicious thing to do. But yeah, like everything about that scene, you're just like, oh no, no, this has got to stop. This has got to stop. It's gonna stop. And then nope, he's done it. Like, he's killed the one person that I would consider to be his like wingman, the only person that he could trust. And like, yes, Victor had his ups and he had his downs, but like I felt like he was on the right trajectory in the finale episode. He has that moment where he's trying to like prove the Penguin's the good guy and trying to like re-rally the troops, and then he gets punched in the gut and basically told to shut up. And I was like, come on, like this guy's got heart. But yeah, like minutes later, nope, he's done. Like it's over.
And then like
It really shocked
Oz
me.
Oz goes through his pockets too and tosses his ID so
Yeah,
that his body can't be identified, takes the money that he's given him in the past. Like, yeah, you are an asshole.
yeah, yeah. And again, to draw on some similarities, like a lot of people from the jump were immediately bringing the show to my attention and the connections between what the Penguin was and kind of what the Sopranos was. And like Oswald is very comparable to Tony Soprano. Like that's a fact. Like how he carries himself, how he talks, his relationship with his mother, all those complexities of what Tony's character is are very much like similar in what's going on in the Penguin. But in direct comparison, and again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen The Sopranos, who you would consider Tony's like best man in Christopher Moltisanti, it's the exact same execution. Like Tony kills Christopher by choking him. Here we have the Penguin killing Victor by choking him. It's just that those type of things that when you see it on the screen, you're like, no, stop. Like, please, just stop. Like, let go. And it just continues to go on, and you cannot believe that that's how they're going out.
Especially, yeah, like killing someone that way. It's not like he shoots him and then has a second thought of, oh no, I've made a mistake. Like, you're choking someone, you have ample opportunity to go, no, I don't want to do this. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
have to fully commit and go the full length of choking someone until they stop breathing completely to end
Yeah,
it that way.
it's nuts.
Uh, the other major characters in this, Kristen Milioti as Sophia Falcone, later Gigante, another, I thought, brilliant addition to this universe and the story. She comes across as a deeply twisted and terrifying character, so much so that, like, in those early episodes when we're first introduced to her, you can tell even Oz is a little bit wary of her. I don't want to sort of agitate her too much because she has a history of murdering lots of people. Although we later find out that there's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of complexity in that story. And yeah, I thought Kristen was brilliant in that role of portraying that. And really, no surprise because
Absolutely.
she is a massive Batman nerd from what I've read.
No, yeah, and she nailed it. And throughout the series, it was like she's on top and the Penguin's on top, and she's on top and the Penguin's on top. It was always this kind of like
And then they're
battle of
together.
seeing who's going to get exactly. Yeah, there was a short point where they're working together and they're still finding out each other's secrets and keeping this from each other. But yeah, the continuation of this kind of like rat race of like who's going to be on top was amazing, and she crushed it. Like she showed so much range in her emotions and being like lovely and then being like absolutely terrifying and like scary, being a leader, being able to like step up and speak up to people immediately after eliminating half of a crime family. Yeah, like she has a lot of depth, and I'm very excited to continue to see her character grow in this world. What she's going to be doing with other people in Arkham Asylum, what she's going to be doing with Catwoman, like how she continues to be relevant moving forward is extremely exciting.
Yeah, her like range in this, where she goes from that deranged, paranoid person with zero trust for men, but then we also see her with her niece being like super loving, super caring, even though she's just gone and killed her
Yeah,
entire family. Um,
yeah,
I thought her character was a great way to introduce that concept of Arkham Asylum as well and Arkham Prison without sort of hamming it up and making a big deal out of, oh, this is the worst of the worst place you want to go. They just drip feed you little bits and pieces, and you get that impression that nobody really talks about this place. They don't name it hardly ever in the series. You just kind
hmm
of know, and yeah, it's bad because she spent 10 years there. We see her undergoing electroshock therapy, and then that ultimately breaks her, and she then ends up embracing the hangman moniker and the sort of the stories that have been spun about her. She's like, yeah, that's all true.
yeah. Yeah, and Arkham in itself could be its own series. Like I would watch 10 series on what Arkham is. But yeah, you're right. They gave us enough to understand like what it was, but without like going down that rabbit hole too much. I mean, I feel like the Penguin is and is always going to continue to live outside of Arkham, and mostly in Gotham in the underground, and now his new HQ in the the tallest building with a view of the city, just like he promised his mother. But yeah, like they kept us interested. They gave us just the tip, so we'd always want a little bit more.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, as I'm sure Jeremy Lambert will tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUS WRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards. Jeremy.
Yeah, like I said, like people complained about no Batman, but it's fine. Like you said, you could go to Arkham and there's 30 different characters in that prison that would be
Mm,
a super compelling watch.
yeah.
If we sort of were to get between now and 2026, obviously we're not going to, they haven't announced anything. But if we were to get another spin-off, are there any characters that you would want to see we go and follow them and get their backstory before we get into the next movie?
Um,
Or even maybe for the series after the movie?
I mean, oh, there's a series. Is that confirmed? There's a series after the movie, or if we're talking about hypotheticals, I mean,
Yeah,
if Batman 2 goes down the path of the what is it, the Council of the Owls, the Owls Council
the
or
Court of
whatever,
Owls.
the Court of Owls.
Yep.
I feel like that opens up the door of the quote unquote like the bad Avengers of the DC Gotham like world.
Mhm.
But no, what is it? Doctor Frost? Is that his like? Is that his cartoon name?
Yeah, Dr. Frost or Dr. Freeze.
Doctor Freeze. Doctor Freeze. Doctor Freeze is definitely one. Like obviously, like Arnold Schwarzenegger portrayed it, did a great job, but it was definitely like in that moment in that film, it was like Hollywood actor insert
Yep.
like play
It's
Dr.
super
Freeze.
campy,
I
over the top.
Exactly. So I would love to kind of know like what the fixation is there with Dr. Freeze before, and not just like the Hollywood interpretation. Like if there was a Freeze series, that would be interesting. Is it just like how we saw it with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Poison Ivy would be amazing one, and kind of getting the girls involved. I feel like everything Batman is very like male driven and then like very, so it'd be really cool to continue kind of down the feminine path and all things Gotham. I think that'd be amazing. Um, and then I feel like an amazing and almost appropriate series on the side would be if they're going to introduce a Robin character, then like
Mhm.
that's something that like you can give me 8 episodes to unpack it before you introduce it in a movie, because it would give us all of that extra before or maybe even after information on, excuse me, on what Robin is and what Robin means and where Robin comes from. And I just feel like that again, it continues to like give everything for a Batman fan without giving it to you all in one 2 hour or 2.5 hour movie.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, like, yeah, obviously, they're probably trying to steer clear of Joker just because of we've had those movies, let's not rehash that and muddle this universe. Like, I would personally go Harvey Dent. I think that leading into him, like, becoming Two-Face could be an awesome series, and again, like, you don't have to it doesn't really have to revolve around Batman, it could just be like an SVU Law and Order type series, like, it's just a crime series, and then his court proceedings end up leading him down to getting embroiled in sort of this, um, corruption world, and then ultimately gets the Two-Face burns and becomes the villain.
Yeah. I want to say the one interesting like Batman watch that I've seen outside of the films and outside of the series, I want to say it's called Gotham, and it was on the
Mhm.
CW.
Yep.
It ran for a good amount of time, and it had essentially like a young, oh my god, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Detective Gordon,
Mhm.
and like his interactions with a young Bruce Wayne, and like the all of these like baddies on the rise. And it's very like PG 13, which is fine for the CW. But yeah, that one I feel like gave you a little bit of that like Law and Order kind of criminally driven like aspect of what Batman is without really getting too much into the Batman world. But I agree, if they gave us that on HBO, I would be all for it. Like I just feel like first and foremost, I feel like anything that HBO gets behind is always worth watching.
Yep.
And then the moment they link it up with these like massive franchises, it's like they rarely miss. And then this one, I think they really nailed it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's the key, like, if they wanna do these spin-offs, explores different genres, like, yeah, do the Law& and Orders, do, like, I guess with, like, Poison Ivy, like, you could do sort of a more of a CSI type thing where it's, like, biology and all of that stuff, like, it doesn't have to just be everything's a mafia story or this
Yeah,
grounded detective story, like, let's explore other areas.
absolutely. Absolutely. And like you have so much to take from. Like you have all the video games that everyone loves. You have all the comic books that everyone loves. Like you can pick up any of the movies and reinvent them, but I just feel like the further back you go and you get some of those like OG characters and bring them into the modern era is definitely something that I'd be tuning into.
And then visually, like, again, I thought this was phenomenal, very much in the Matt Reeves universe, this there isn't any doubt that if you watch the movie and then you watch this, you go, "Oh, they're separate." Like, no, they are connected. They fit with the sort of
Yeah, but
beautiful cinematography. And you mentioned the Court of Owls. There is a very little hint and allusion to that in that final episode. Did you pick it up at all?
yeah, definitely, definitely. I like you said, I think they did a fantastic job of like the movie ending and going right into the series, and then the series going right into the movie, the second movie, excuse me. But be specific. What biggest things I guess for you were kind of connecting those dots?
Just like the cinematography, like we have a lot of those really sort of wide shots where we get a lot of the city. It's really bright, like quite colorful at times, but then when it gets to the nighttime, it is dark, it's dreary, it's wet, and it's like, yes, they connect so well. Like
Yeah,
that's what I loved about the Batman. Like the night scenes were dark, they felt cold, they felt wet. But then when you got the bright pops of like the oranges and the reds, they really hit hard, and they do that here with like, yeah, that purple car. It pops off the screen, and then when we go outside and we get like the sun shining in through a window, it really hits. And yeah, that final scene, we get the red of the building, the dark, dreary, like blue, purpley sky with the bat signal in the clouds.
Yeah.
Like that is such an awesome shot to get you really eager for the movie, and then they dropped the date, and I was like, "Oh, that's so far away."
Yeah. I mean, for all the Batman fans and like and again, this is a DC series and I love everything they're doing, but like for all the Batman fans that are upset that they didn't get Batman, like you needed to watch until that very last shot to get your Batman fix. So it's almost like how the MCU has these post-credit scenes, but they just did it before the credits. So
Mhm.
like they kind of gave you everything you wanted there, which I really, really enjoyed. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm very, very excited, but I know I have to wait quite a long time for Batman 2. So
Especially with the line before they zoom out and we see the bat signal. The very final line that we hear spoken is, "Nothing is standing in your way now." And then we slowly pan out, get wider and wider, and you see the bat signal pop up. You're like, "Oh, there's something standing in your way."
yeah, yeah, and like you said, like does Oz at any point reference Batman? Like I know for a fact that no one says anything regarding the Waynes, Bruce Wayne. No one says anything like that, which I think was fair. Like it's good, and Bruce Wayne is just some rich guy in this point, so like no one knows who he is, which is valid. But yeah, like they didn't need to continue to be like, oh, I'm worried about the bat or I'm worried about the bat. Like they didn't need to continue to have this like fear of this guy in the night coming for you. But we know as viewers that like he's out there. We just don't know where he is. And then they finally give it to you in that last scene. So yeah, it works. I feel like they did it just kind of like the Obi-Wan spin-off series did. Like as a Star Wars fan, I wanted Obi-Wan to say hello there. Like all I wanted him to do for the entire series was say hello there, and then he had to wait until the very last scene for him to get it. So it's kind of like as long as you tune in, you're gonna get what you want. It just might be not until the very very end.
Yep. Yeah, I think like a few of the sort of the lower henchmen might talk about how they're afraid to go out at like nighttime or be alone at nighttime, but they don't like reference the bat
Because
or
of
anything like that.
yeah,
They're kind of just like, I just don't want to. If we're going out at night, like I want to be in a group. Like I don't want to be by myself.
mm, absolutely.
Um. So yeah, like I was mentioning that court of owls in that scene where Oz meets the politician in the courtroom. Did you notice
Yep,
the curtains on the walls?
I I
The like
did I
the
did see
owl
this
shapes. I was like, that is
the
so cool.
slowly the slowly bringing in like what we all think is coming in Batman 2, which I think is fair. Like I'm excited that they're going down that path and not like you said like reinventing the Joker or kind of giving us like what we've already seen in all the movies. So I'm very keen to see us go down like not uncharted territory, but like it hasn't been done in a while. So like bring it on.
Especially because like we've already seen that in this universe, Joker is in Arkham. He's already
Yeah,
there. Batman knows he's there. He's communicating with him. So like I imagine when we get to the Batman 2, we're gonna have a new villain, and I think they said it's the Scarecrow or something.
I feel like I read the same thing too. I think they're going to kind of start to slowly but surely bring in the Scarecrow, and I mean as crazy as this may seem, may have already met the Scarecrow in
Mhm.
some form of a character, and then he then is going to basically identify. But yeah, the reference of the Court of Owls is good. I also like how like obviously Batman has always been he's had Detective Gordon there as like his like backup, but the Gordon character and the Harvey Dent character are heavily rooted in politics, and everything that we're living in today's world, and especially in America, is very politically driven. So it's very interesting that they're like pulling on that because it's relevant. Like it's always interesting to see like what it's one thing to have like a criminal underworld, but if that criminal underworld is actually being run by political powerhouses and they themselves are criminals, it's always good to see that connection. And it's relevant, and I think it's like the perfect way to bring us something new and give us what we want.
Yeah, yeah. So I could imagine like the Batman 2 will be the Scarecrow is running around causing havoc throughout the city. the Penguin's off doing his little bits and pieces, maybe like helping fund the Scarecrow's activities. And then Batman is just going to be like bouncing ideas off the Joker in prison, getting like help, like because they are enemies, but they are two enemies that are like very closely hand in hand linked of I'm no good without you, you're no good without me. Let's work together to get this, and then that can obviously maybe lead into Joker somehow getting out of prison, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sky's the limit, and I definitely feel like this series as Batman has as a third film down the track. I feel like it's inevitable. And then yeah, like I would love there to be a sequel to Penguin. It'd be fantastic, even if it's not a direct sequel with the Penguin, and it's it's the Scarecrow, but like Oswald is in it. I feel like that's just like bound to happen. I don't think you can just give this. I don't think you can give Colin Farrell only 8 episodes. Like he deserves as much screen time as you're willing to give him. So, yeah, I hope the Penguin character isn't shelved or put away too much. But at the same time, I'm so eager for them to introduce other characters and let us go down other rabbit holes.
Yep. Yeah, like even in the Batman one, the Penguin isn't in it a huge amount. He's kind of just a notable crime figure, so he's there, help, and he gets questioned a few times. But Colin did reveal in November that he'd signed a 3-movie deal. So whether
Okay.
they count this series as one of those, but he's at least in the next movie. I imagine if there's a third movie, he'd be in that. If it's a 3-film deal, so maybe there is already the idea of okay, if this second one is good in the terms of we have a good solid script, we're confident in it, let's greenlight the next one and get the ball rolling. But yeah, I like you said, I hope there's another season in between. Who knows? Like it could go anywhere. Like this universe is so fleshed out. They could quite happily be like, "Oh, we're going to do a Harley Quinn series," and I'd be like, "Yep, sweet, I'm in."
Yeah, that was the other thing. When they introduced Selena Kyle at the end, or not introduced, but they kind of like the letter led into that. I was like, I had to think. I was like, did I miss other characters being called by their real name instead of like their villain or their hero alter ego? And I had to like think about it because Harley Quinn was one. Obviously, you have, and I'm drawing a blank on the doctor's name that works with Sophia and then gives Sophia the letter. That's portrayed by Juice from Sons of Anarchy, who's
Mhm.
another one of my like favorite actors. He pops up every now and then. He was in Luke Cage, another MCU spinoff on Netflix. But for a second, I thought like they almost kind of replaced Harley Quinn with his character, but then I was like, no, Harley comes from a kind of a different aspect of what Arkham was. So there's still hope that we get another Harley Quinn character, and who portrays that character. I'm very excited. But yeah, like there's in the Gotham series that I mentioned earlier on the CW, the kind of like crazy, kooky Arkham guy is portrayed by B.J. Wong, who's another like famous actor that I think did a really good job of portraying like the craziness of what happens in the good and the bad of Arkham. So yeah, there's so much yet to like be unturned that like again I feel like I need to rewatch it to just catch up and make sure I didn't miss any small Easter eggs or anything that's like hinting at who we might see or again, like I mentioned, I feel as if the Court of Owls are definitely going to involve characters that we've already seen on screen, but we just don't understand how deeply involved they are.
Yep. Yeah, like I think that Doctor, I think like in the series, he's kind of initially portrayed as like an intern. So like maybe it's later revealed that Harley was his boss and like she's the one that kind
Yeah,
of led him down this crazy path of electroshock therapy and using this bliss drug and like totally drugging and completely messing up Sophia.
yeah, completely messing up Sophia, and like we really didn't unpack the complexities of what they're doing to Oz's mom. Like the
Hmm.
I caught it when I was watching it yesterday when in the I think it's the first scene of the first shot of the last episode was that when she gets up and we as the viewer see her human body as her older mother self, and then she looks in the mirror and she sees a younger version of herself, and we were watching it and I was like, something's off here. Like she's in an alternative universe or she's thinking all this is happening, and I couldn't put it together until it kind of went back and forth, and then Sophia kind of like shows up in the vision and tells her to focus. And while that's happening, you see the lights going kind of like in front of her face back and forth. We have no idea what that machine is. We have no idea what like transient state they put her into. We have no idea what that could get other people to unpack. And like
Mhm.
for all we know, that entire like process could be what they use on Batman to admit that he is Bruce Wayne, or vice versa, or anything like that. So they have so much to unpack, and like, what are you getting out of these people in Arkham? Like, it's one thing to use them as like test subjects on crazy drugs or stuff like that, but it's another thing to like, if this works for that, how are they using it outside of Arkham to get something else? Like, that's the crazy part about it.
Yep. Yeah, like that they know all of these people are like major villains in this world, so now we can kind of dig into their secrets and potentially Batman's secrets and Robin's secrets and all of that sort of crazy nuance and open up new avenues for the story. So I thought this show was phenomenal. I gave this 5 out of 5. What would you give the Penguin on HBO?
Oh, 4.7 out of 5. I really don't think they missed on much. It's hard to give it a perfect score, but it's damn near close. Like, casting wise was great. The writing was good. It kept you on the edge of the seat every single episode. I really can't think of one episode where I feel like they kind of like took their foot off the gas. Like, each one had something to give, and it was valid in the 8 episodes as a whole. Um, I'm a big fan of 10 episodes getting through any series, but I kind of appreciate what they got done in 8. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would say 4.7 out of 5.
Yeah, I think if they'd gone a little bit more, we would have started to veer into that territory of right. Okay, where's Batman? Like he should be here now.
Yeah,
Like the way they ended it with
exactly.
the explosion happens in the morning, and then by night we're seeing the bat signal. That's perfect. Like that's that perfect of okay, this is something that would get his attention, and now we're seeing the bat signal. Okay, he's coming. Something is going down. This whole crime
Absolutely.
syndicate is about to face off with their worst nightmare.
Absolutely. And I guess let me ask you this. What would you guess is the actual reason that the bat symbol went off in that moment? Because like you said, the beginning of the last episode picks up right at the explosion, and then it's almost like, let's say it's probably not 24 hours later, but it's probably like 48 hours later, because he does kind of get cleaned up and he gets his suit and he moves into that penthouse. So there's got to be a little bit of time in between the two. But like, what would be your guess as to why at that moment we get the bat symbol in the sky?
I would think that Vic's body was found, and like maybe Vic is someone much more connected than we initially realize, and then it's kind of flows on from there, maybe
That's my guess. That I was gonna say
because
that
we
was my
never see
first
his
thought as
father.
well.
It makes me think his father is probably a
Ooh, that's a
politician,
good one.
but like he doesn't even know he doesn't know his dad, so maybe he
Yeah,
doesn't
kind of like a
realize that.
deadbeat dad politician that like knew about the kid but never really kept him close and kept him within arm's reach. And now his
Because
body shows up and he has to identify.
yeah, we
That's
see
a good
his
one.
family, but that's not his actual dad in that moment.
Correct.
Before the
Yeah,
explosion, so that's like a stepfather, so I think, like, maybe his actual father is a lot more connected than we realize, and that person is the one that
that was
realizes.
that was my first thought as well. But then I guess the only thing that I feel like could also be is something. And I'd have to really, and you might be able to help me out, but I'm trying to think of what actually happens with Selena Kyle at the end of Batman. Is she riding off into the sunset? Is she running away? Because I feel like her reinserting herself with the note is kind of like, I'm coming back to Gotham, or I'm still around, and that might be why it's back on, because all of a sudden, like, the girl that caused all this chaos at the end of the film is now somehow, some way identified or been identified or is back around. But no, I think you're onto something with the Vic's father angle. I like that.
Yeah, like, that again, that Selena thing could be another thing because obviously they're gonna be reading they've read all the letters that go in, so they read that, they tell Gordon, and then he goes, by the way, she's back in town."
Yeah,
So,
absolutely,
lots to
absolutely.
unpack, but unfortunately, we have to wait until October 2nd, 2026. Still
Oh,
so far away.
I'll start the countdown clock now. You know, it'll be on my screen for a while, but it's worth it.
I'm just going to go and rewatch The Batman and The Penguin over and over again for the next year and a half.
Yeah, man.
Alrighty, awesome. Thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow me on social media at Jamie Media and at Pario Magazine. Alex, go ahead and let everyone know where to follow you and catch all of your stuff around the traps.
You guys can catch me on Instagram. I'm under Sideshow Bua. Feel free to give me some love. You'll see all the crazy things I'm doing here in Sydney at the club. So yeah, feel free to follow along.
The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.